the Easter weekend draws to a close, traffic on national roads is expected to pick up once again. Motorists should brace themselves for another fuel price hike next week, Wednesday. And the ANC hopes the Durban High Court will pass a judgment that stops the MK party from using the logo of its former military wing going into the 29 May elections. A very good afternoon. We're coming to you live from our studios here in Auckland Park, Johannesburg. Thank you very much for tuning in. You're watching The Week Ahead. You can interact with us on social media platforms. It's at Week Ahead, and our hashtag is The Week Ahead. I'm your host, Mfundo Mabalana. Leading our bulletin this hour, the Road Traffic Management Corporation says more than 1,000 road users have been arrested and 900 vehicles impounded during law enforcement operations conducted across the country since the start of the Easter weekend. It says among those arrested include those for drunken driving, producing false driving documentation, reckless and negligent driving, and overloading of both goods and passengers. The vehicles were impounded mainly in KwaZulu-Natal and Mpumalanga for violation of public transport operating permits. Law enforcement officers say they will show no tolerance to people who break the rules of the road by driving under the influence of alcohol or at excessive speeds or driving without driving licenses. Now, as the Easter weekend draws to a close, traffic on national roads is expected to pick up once again. This as many motorists are expected to make early trips back to their destinations. SABC News reporter Luandile Mbulali has more.
We are coming to you from Tata in the Eastern Cape. This is where the traffic department as well as law enforcement from the King Sabatata Lingebo are having a road block. It is Easter Sunday. It has been a very quiet one. It has been a quiet morning. Even town has been relatively quiet this morning as people are at church. But we are expecting traffic to pick up, especially after 2 this evening. But this is where the traffic department is having the road block this morning. We're having the spokesperson of King Sabatata Lingebo who will just update us on the statistics since the start of the Easter weekend. Mr. Mamposa, thank you for having us. If you can just update us on the roadblocks that you have had since the start of these Easter holidays.
Thanks a lot. 95 people have been searched. 25 tickets have been issued. We have also arrested an African male for possession of drugs and unlicensed ammunition. Also, a number of arrests have been made for possession of drugs in the CBD here in Umtata. Our traffic officers are working hard to man our intersections in order to control the traffic congestion here in Umtata. So far, there are 3 accidents that have occurred here in the city of Umtata, and also one in Mkanduli. So, unfortunately, the one occurred at R411 in Mkanduli. 4 people have lost their lives, while the 4 have sustained their injuries. So far, the situation is at a controllable stage right now.
Okay, Mr. Maboza, maybe if you can tell us about the traffic flow in Mthatha, and also can we expect more roadblocks tomorrow and then the next coming days?
For the safety of our people, our law enforcement officers will be on the road, manning the roadblocks to ensure that the vehicles that are traveling are safe. People that are in those vehicles are also safe. So I can assure that our law enforcement officers will be at all points until the end of the Easter weekend.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mamposa, for your time. That is the spokesperson for King Sabatata Lingebo local municipality, just updating us on the statistics since the start of Easter weekend. As we stand right now, 15 people have lost their lives in the Eastern Cape, but we will continue and monitor the situation on the roads. From us in Mthatha, it is back to you in studio.
Now, more competition in the electricity market through the breakup of Eskom into 3 different entities is expected to benefit more South Africans. Electricity Minister Dr. Hossein Ramakgopa announced that the transmission company will be operational soon as regulatory measures are almost complete in getting the company up and running. Ramakgopa said the Electricity Regulation Amendment Bill has gone through the National Assembly and will now be considered by the National Council of Provinces Chamber.
Ramakgopa says the legislation has been categorized as a priority that government would like to see approved before the conclusion of the 6th administration. He says the primary intervention the bill introduces is to ensure that it becomes easier to produce and sell electricity in the country. It does this by the establishment of the transmission systems operator wholly owned by Eskom, called the National Transmission Company of South Africa.
It ensures that all electricity producers are treated equally and fairly and are allowed access to the national grid on a non-discriminatory basis. So they are not going to discriminate. When you are ready, you want to evacuate the electrons, would have introduced a platform that makes it possible for you to do that. So on a non-discriminatory basis. And then the second one is that it enables a market platform through which electricity can be bought and sold by multiple players. So essentially, in addition to a non-discriminatory approach, it democratizes the space. So you are able to ensure that there's multiple sources that can generate, there's multiple buyers, and they are going to go through this platform to be able to procure that electricity.
Analysts say the benefits for the economy and the consumers will be lower electricity prices in the long run. This would be as a result of the introduction of competition by introducing multiple players and moving away from an Eskom monopoly. The move will also increase the reliability of supply and offer choices to electricity users.
Because infrastructure is a long term in terms of seeing the impacts, the decisions have to be made now, but the impacts will be in the future. One of the key critical elements that this institution will have is that it will provide transmission infrastructure to enable those generators to be able to bring in capacity. So its success will strengthen the involvement of the private sector. But as I say, I don't see it having an impact in the short term. In fact, it will have a transitional period of exactly 5 years. That's what is anticipated. Thereafter, there are still reforms that could be enacted depending on how the whole transition process takes place.
The Electricity Regulation Amendment Bill will go before the National Council of Provinces, where, if approved, it can be signed into law by the President. Gloria Sefakomosi, SABC News, Johannesburg.
The Competition Commission Media Inquiry has heard that there are avenues being implemented to discourage uploading misleading content on the YouTube platform. This is after broadcasters complained they're experiencing deep fakes generated by artificial intelligence using their branding and presenters selling misleading products or services. YouTube says it's been voluntary for people to disclose if their content is AI created, but is now looking into implementing penalties for uploading misleading content.
The video sharing platform told the Commission that it has content guidelines on what is allowed and not allowed on YouTube. There are also rules on uploading AI-generated content, which prohibits content that has been manipulated or doctored in a way that is misleading to consumers. YouTube says content creators have to disclose, and then a label will be displayed on the content. But those that intend to mislead consumers and do not disclose that the content is manipulated may face a penalty.
We are also instituting a penalty system for lack of disclosure as well. This penalty system is one we're actively working on now. This is a very new area, and so we're doing it based on our learnings as we start to roll out these features. But we do know that we will need to have a structure that enables penalties to ensure that those bad actors are caught and their behavior is not permitted. And then there are other areas that we would be happy to follow up on as well. For example, we've rolled out a privacy complaint flow for individuals who may be victims of deepfakes.
Misinformation around the election season will also be dealt with using detection systems where misleading content will be detected by automated systems and by human personnel.
All of our detection systems are in place for all of our policy areas, including our election policies. Those do not require human flags. We do review content if it is flagged by a human, but that is not a prerequisite for us to identify and take action on violative content. And I mentioned previously that much of the actioning that we do of violative content is on content that has not been viewed by a human at all. So much of our work is on automated detection.
YouTube says it serves as a supplement for traditional media in terms of news consumption, but not as a replacement. It says data shows that it is younger audiences who consume news on YouTube. Gloria Sefago-Mosi, SABC News, Johannesburg.
Welcome back. Thank you very much for staying with us. Now, about 200 people are homeless and 50 shacks destroyed in a fire at the Joe Slovo informal settlement in Langa on the Cape Flats. Members of the City of Cape Town's fire department have been deployed to the scene. This was done last night with about 5 firefighting vehicles. Team members of humanitarian organization Gift of the Givers were deployed to the informal settlement to provide immediate relief.
Gift of the Givers team members are currently on site at an active fire raging through the Joe Slovo informal settlement in Langa. It's a bleak Easter weekend for these affected families as they could save no belongings, especially with school opening up in the coming week. Credit due to the City of Cape Town Fire Department for bringing the fire under control, and they are currently busy with mop-up operations to prevent any flare-ups. Gift of the Givers team members will be on site to assist the affected families with humanitarian assistance.
Now, in celebration of the end of the month of Ramadan, about 45,000 food hampers will be distributed across South Africa, with 24,000 of those being distributed to needy families in the Western Cape. Operation Fitra is an initiative by the South African National Zakah Fund to ensure that every Muslim is free of want when they end their fast on the day of Eid.
Communities working together to help those in need. Operation Fitra is conducted over 3 months. It includes the individual assessment of families and home visits.
We are here at the Athlone Civic Centre, and what's happening here today is the packing of our Fitra hampers. And basically what Fitra hampers is the food parcels that we pack for distribution to the less privileged in our community, those who have been fasting, that they also have something for the day of Eid to actually celebrate one of the special days that marks the end of the month of Ramadan.
The food hampers include fresh produce as well as canned goods.
I'm part of a religious and a cultural group, a young youth group in the community, and we came here today to motivate others to come and assist with this great work, because we know what it is to feed the poor and to look after those who are less fortunate. So we are here and we are motivating the young. So we are trying to get more youngsters involved. You know, the older generation is getting older, they can't do it anymore. So we trying to motivate that people come and assist in this regard.
It's an opportunity to be together, teamwork. You know, they at the same time they earn something in terms of their advancement for it as well, because it's part of the work that they do, and they get little badges for it along the way. So they absolutely enjoy it. They love it. They love being together with each other in terms of doing it, as well as the fact that it comes from their hearts in terms of doing good for the community.
The parcels have been handed out in various communities.
Their unemployment rate is high. There are a lot of people that are not working, a lot of kids that are not even going to school for that matter, and kids that are during the day even just coming around and coming to look for something to eat. So that is the issues that we have over here, and obviously with that obviously the crime rate also goes up, stuff like that, right? But yes, we're working on it, and we have a very nice area over here. We have the support of SANZAF that is helping us to have the people get some groceries in their cupboard at least.
I feel glad and I got no something to eat for la barang.
Thank you very
So my heart full happy.
Every year, SANSAF also aims to serve hot meals to over 1 million people in South Africa during Ramadan. Tanya Krause, SABC News.
The Anglican Archbishop of Cape Town, Thabo Makgoba, has cautioned South Africans to carefully consider who they'll vote for in the 2024 elections. He was speaking during his Easter vigil at St. George's Cathedral last night.
Africa gears up for the upcoming elections. Anglican Archbishop Thabo Makgoba has sent a message to all South Africans through his Easter vigil, asking them to carefully consider who they will vote for and to carefully examine contesting parties' credentials and manifestos before voting.
This election, dear friends, is not only an election for a party. It is an election which calls us to decide for or against continued corruption, for or against inequality, for or against misgovernance. We need to examine party manifestos, but then, just as important, we need to decide whether we believe the parties are capable of implementing those manifestos.
Makgoba is also calling for the ceasefire resolution on Gaza that was recently passed by the UN Security Council to be implemented immediately.
It is the combined efforts of all these campaigners that have produced for the first time a Security Council resolution mandating a ceasefire in Gaza. And we call for that ceasefire to be implemented immediately. If both Israel and Hamas do not put down their weapons, they deserve to become pariahs among civilized people. Achievements such as bringing about a ceasefire reflect the stirrings of Easter. New beginnings, shifts in consciousness, and new thresholds in history. They all proclaim the Easter message.
The Holy Week for Easter is observed from Palm Sunday until Easter Sunday, when Christians believe that Jesus overcame the grave and was resurrected to eternal life, securing salvation for mankind. Corbin August, SABC News, Cape Town.
We shift our focus to this story now. Hundreds of revelers have flocked to the annual Rand Show in Nasrec, south of Johannesburg, to have fun with family and friends this Easter long weekend.
Having fun was the order of the day at the Rand Show, as those who attended the annual event had an unforgettable experience, and regardless of age and race, all had the best time of their lives.
What did you say?
I wanted to say that one day I want to join the army.
You want to join the army? Why do you want to join the army?
Because it's really fun.
It's really fun. You want to be a soldier? Okay. Are you enjoying yourself? Are you hungry? Are you not giving your dad any problem? Are you behaving yourself?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Congratulations. That was a good choice of being a soldier.
Yeah.
Government departments, including the South African Police Service, Johannesburg Metro Police Department, were amongst those who came to offer their services free of charge.
With JMPD particularly, we've showcasing all our units. We've got the speed section, so people who are interested in the speeding on our roads and to see how the cameras work, you can see them here. And we've also got the public order policing, the officers who deal with riots, and you can also check your outstanding traffic fines. So if you do have any, it's your opportunity to pay. But what's different also this year with our licensing department is that they've got their licensing truck. So members of public have the opportunity to renew their license disc, to renew their driving license as well.
We are exhibiting various sections within the police that is including forensic services. We've got FCS, which deals with children. We've got a section that deals with complaints against the police. So if there's anybody who has a complaint, they can come to us. We try to assist. We've got a section that deals with drugs and showing people the different kinds of drugs.
Ours is quite simple. It's just to showcase the various services that we have as Gauteng Emergency Services. When you get to our stall, we have all the toys that you can think of, when that pertains to emergency services. We've brought in our intensive care unit, which we use on the road with all the equipment. One of the vehicles that we also brought, which is a vehicle that we've fairly acquired, which is new. It's a very new concept, a heavy rescue vehicle.
The Rand Easter show closes on the 1st of April 2024. Calvin Dludla, SABC News, Johannesburg.
Welcome back. Thank you very much for staying with us. Now, judgment was last week reserved in the High Court in Durban in the trademark case between the African National Congress and the Umkhonto we Sizwe Party, led by former President Jacob Zuma. This as the ANC lost its court battle to keep the MK party off the ballot. The governing party hopes the Durban High Court will pass a judgment that stops the MK from using the logo of its former military wing going into the 29 May elections. We're joined now by Elton Hart from the University of Johannesburg's Law Clinic to unpack this particular case. Elton, good afternoon and thank you very much for your time.
Good afternoon to the viewers.
No, it's a pleasure to always have you with us. Now, Elton, there were many themes or legal questions that arose when listening to both the ANC and MK. I want us to start with the question of jurisdiction, whether the matter was at the right court this week. Advocate Sidiso Ramachale for the ANC argued that the Electoral Court has a narrow mandate. It only deals with scrutinizing marks or symbols of an applicant in comparison to registered parties on the ballot. It does not deal with the lawful use of a trademark. Now, Advocate Mpofu for MK then said, well, if this is the right court, why did you wait until the Electoral Commission finalized the review process on the 24th of November before coming to this court? You should have rushed here in June when the party was registered. What did you make of just these arguments?
No, I think the ANC was right in approaching the High Court with the trademark battle. The Electoral Court will normally come and say, okay, there's an objection because your logo or your badge or your name looks similar to what we already have registered as one of the political parties. That's more or less the scope for the Electoral Commission. Yes, the problem lies in the ANC waiting, delaying to come to this court to actually saying that we feel that there's a trademark that belongs to us that has been used without our consent and our rights is being infringed. But yet they have to come and explain to the Durban High Court as to why did they wait so long? Why did they wait for the Electoral Court, the Electoral Commission to actually register this trademark, knowing that it's now in full swing being used by a certain sector of South Africa as their political party that they're campaigning for, and now run to court and act as if it's urgent and also you've been sitting idle.
Mm-hmm. And not arguing the urgency. Because Advocate Mpofu stressed, we even heard Moses Kakane stress this part, that urgency has not been argued. We have all been brought here summoned, but there's no courtesy on the part of the ANC to indulge the court and state why exactly has this matter become urgent? Because essentially it would have become urgent upon registration of the MK party in June of 2023.
You're indeed right, and what I would say, this urgency that the ANC is trying to sort of leech on or hook onto is like a self-created urgency, because we know the president has announced that 29 May 2024 is the election date. Now bringing it as close to the election date, they say you need to hear us on an urgent basis because the elections is nearing, but this is a self-created urgency and the court shouldn't treat it as urgent. The court should say, listen here, you had from I think 24 November up until now now really to actually challenge the decision. But you also became aware of this, I think it was even in early September, around about 6-7 September, that you became aware that there's a MK party, the Mkhonto we Sizwe party, that's now being brought on the leg, and you did nothing. You were idle about it. Even through the registration process, you did not exercise your rights, and now you want to run to this court, not explaining properly condemnation, not explaining your urgency, and now you want to come and argue urgency or say that the court needs to attend to this urgency. But on jurisdiction, I think they were in the right court.
Okay, so you mean they made a case out for them being at the right court insofar as dealing with trademark infringement. But when listening to Advocate Mpofu, you also seem to be suggesting that the reason that the ANC took its time was because it was possibly forum shopping, that it wanted to first hear the outcome from the Electoral Commission, meaning now it was electing to partake in that process. And when the outcome was not favorable, only then would they take the matter to a court that should actually be dealing with it, which is now the Durban High Court. Would you think that it's correct that that is what Advocate Mpofu was trying to build on here, that perhaps they were forum shopping, they wanted to try and use all forums?
No, indeed, the ANC was trying to use all forums, but they were also not wrong in actually going, because when you challenge the registration of the MK party, that is sort of something that would eventually end up in the jurisdictional scope of the electoral court. And the problem is that the ANC actually fell short on to prove to the court that they actually exploited all the internal remedies within the commission and thereafter approaching court. But on that front, I think that was the right to just sort of have narrow down the arguments to say that the registration is null and void. But to now come and dispute and fight about ownership, the Durban High Court was something else. So that is something different. And we should not sort of have mixed these two in together, because here we say that an application that was null and void from the start, or it became null and void when the voters' numbers were not properly signed, and that's what the ANC was battling about. Now here we're talking about a trade name that we say, and normally we look at it in commercial sense, how you're using it to trade commercially. And I don't see, and I think that's also where the ANC fell short, to show that how is this trademark being infringed because they're losing a commercial benefit. And here's just people that they changed the color a little bit of a logo, still using that logo. And in actual fact, the ANC disbanded MK in 1993, and again, the veterans was banned in, I think, in 2021. So already it's like you're saying, this is the old pair of shoes of Nomfundo. She threw it in the bin. Elton came around. Now he sees the shoes. Oh, it's Louis Vuitton. It's just old. I polish it nicely and I put it on, and you now realize, hey, that was a pair of Louis Vuittons. I want it back. You threw it in the bin. So that was what the MK's legal counsel is also sort of half going after. But the ANC had an uphill battle actually to try and prove that they the outright owners of these Mkhonto we Sizwe trademark, if one can put it that way.
And I think Advocate Moses Kakane took it a bit further to say ownership would probably be the wrong or regrettable term, that here, if we're talking ownership, then you'd have to be more expansive and take it back to history to say you had alliance partners, so this was not Mkhonto we Sizwe that solely was that of the ANC, but ordinary men and women who took up arms to fight the oppressive regime at the time. So it seemed that it was going to be quite academic at that point, but he quickly brought it back and said, but it's common cause that the ANC is somewhat inextricably linked or indelibly associated with Mkhonto we Sizwe. That one is common cause, everybody would say yes. But what lies here, or the question is whether the trademark is registered to the ANC, that are they the registered proprietor? And Dali Mpofu went at length and said, no, it belongs to Legacy Project. And that here, the right was assigned to you after you had brought an application saying your trademark has been infringed. What do you make of that argument? Can it apply retrospectively, which was the question that seemed like one posed to the judge here? That can it apply retrospectively that if we pass power of attorney or borrow you the mandate to represent us as Legacy Project, could you have started a fight before we gave you the right to fight for us?
No, because in law we would say that you lacked locus standi at the point that you actually started the fight. So at that stage, ANC lacked locus standi to actually fight. And then one needs to check who is the owners of the legacy projects. Was that whatever power of attorney that was given to you, was it even properly given to you? So it becomes another technical fight. And I think the ANC, on its own version, cannot and could not prove to the court. And I think the court will find against them that they are the owners, because we know, history tells us that who was the people that actually formed Umkhonto we Sizwe. Yes, the ANC played an integral part in the formation of Umkhonto we Sizwe, but they were not the only ones that played that integral part in the formation, and you can no longer say that it's something that exclusively accrues to you. It accrues to, and the Secretary General of the ANC even went on a public platform and said that Umkhonto we Sizwe belongs to the ANC, but then it says Umkhonto we Sizwe also belongs to the people. Now, who's the people? Because not all the people of South Africa belongs to the ANC. So it was along those lines that you can see that they're not even sure about how to actually structure their argument.
But the most important one is that it's registered. The registered proprietor is Legacy Project as it stands right now. But then there was a question of material non-joinder, that why was Legacy Project then not joined into this case, because as it stands now, they still are the owners of Umkhonto we Sizwe. What did you make of that argument?
No, that's a solid legal argument that was raised to say there was misjoinder, because Legacy Project should have been involved here to say, listen, yeah, we take issue with you guys using our trademark, and then actually battle it on that level. But if they are not there, then it means that the ANC's application needs to and must fail, because the real owners is not there, and obviously the authority or consent that you, or power of attorney that you obtained, was post when the battle lines was already drawn. So you cannot come now and say, yes, you are infringing, and ultimately you are not the owner. This is just a right that is extended. It's like I'm borrowing my farm to you, said Mfundo, you can farm on it for 10 years, but after that you must return my farm. Similar to the ANC, the rights was extended to them, but it didn't say that they became the exclusive owners of that right. It still remained the property of Legacy Projects.
But Elton, if the rights are now given to me, maybe as in power of attorney, that means I can fight on your behalf. I mean, that would probably be the argument from the ANC, that if we were given the power of attorney, we didn't need to join them in the matter because we now stand as them.
No, but you must remember, power of attorney say you can act, but one needs to now check when was it given. When was it given? Because if the battle lines is drawn, that's now, if legal issues has been set on paper already, you can't now come afterwards, because that's a fact that happened afterwards. Then you have to now argue. And I would say that they still needed to join them to say, listen, yeah, you come to the party and you can come and say, but we give the right to these guys to actually operate, do things on our behalf. Yes, it was given at a very later stage. So I think there is where the judges has to now go and look at how do they apply the law to say, can they have that decision to be retrospective in effect, and not necessarily from the point it was given going forward.
What an interesting case it was to witness, but most certainly it will be more interesting to hear what the judge has to say. Alton, as always, thank you very much for your time. That is legal expert Alton Hart speaking to us. More news on the other side of this break. Do stay with us.
South Africa, get ready for the most anticipated election coverage of 2024. I'm Blaine Herman, and I invite you to the heart of political campaigns.
I'm Sakina Kamwendo, and we will be going beyond the headlines with in-depth discussions and insights into political party campaigns.
And that's not all, Sakina. We will be visiting your area to give you a chance to engage authorities firsthand.
So South Africa, don't miss out. Join us here on Elections 360. Stay informed and stay connected.
Elections 360 South Africa every Sunday from 7 until 8 p.m. on SABC2 and SABC News.
Get in touch with SABC News. Call us if you have any news leads, stories, tip-offs, or simply issues you are grappling with as a community. Call us on 011-714-6133. Alternatively, email us at news@sabc.co.za. SABC News, your voice, independent and impartial.
Welcome back. Thank you very much for staying with us. The Department of Mineral Resources and Energy has announced adjustments to fuel prices effective from the 3rd of April 2024. Now, what does this mean for already under pressure consumers? Well, to discuss this further, we're joined by Lebo Ramhlwane, National Vice Chairperson of the South African Petroleum Retailers Association. Good afternoon, Lebo, and thank you very much for your time.
Good afternoon, Mfuno, and good afternoon to all you.
It's a pleasure to have you with us. So another increase is expected this Wednesday. What are the contributing factors with this latest hike?
Mfundo, there are various factors that actually influence this increase that's coming, especially on the ULP 93 and 95 prices. The increase, from, in the inland region, 65 cents and the coastal 58 cents. Is mostly due to the adjustment that the Department of Mineral Resources and Energy had to do in terms of the differential zones and the different pricing that's currently that had to take place in the previous financial period for the price increase. So, for example, the district prices had to change for the Kroonstad zone that closed down, and certain margin changes had to happen on the final price.
Now, as an association, generally when there are hikes, you guys fully are aware that most consumers start to panic because there's a likelihood that some of these costs will be passed on to them. Is there any likelihood of these adjustments possibly being passed on to consumers?
Unfortunately, because fuel is directly linked to so many components of the economy, including food prices, they are what they are because of the increase in diesel costs. But thanks to the relief that's currently happening on the diesel price, the decrease that's coming in the inland and coastal regions, we should that remain a constant, then those drops can actually be seen in the direct price of food, and that's how they can basically be absorbed by the general public.
But that depends if you're inland or on the coast, as you state. So meaning it would not be something that is benefited by all.
Exactly. I mean, like, for example, on 50 ppm currently, there's an increase in Gauteng of, inland of 3 cents 22. And but on the coast, it's decreasing by 3 cents 78 cents per liter. So there is that definite differentiation between who benefits between inland and coastal because of the transportation differences.
Broadly speaking, with all these fluctuations, particularly increase, which are the ones that are not necessarily so welcomed, the conversation around deregulation of fuel is one that continues. Your views on just this?
Deregulation at the moment, it's a tricky subject, because as you remember previously, we spoke about the challenges that we are having in the diesel sector, and that is an unregulated product. So, if the same deregulation was to apply for petrol, I think there would be a bigger mess around that as well. And a lot of small players in the industry, us as retailers, we would not be able to also keep up with the price war that would end up happening amongst all of us.
All right. Lebo, thank you very much for your insights this afternoon. That's Lebo Ramhlwane speaking to us. More news on the other side of this break. Do stay with us. Welcome back. Now, Senegal's Constitutional Council has confirmed the victory of the opposition candidate in last Sunday's presidential elections. Final official results give Bassirou Diomaye Faye up to 54% of the vote. He's expected to be sworn in on Tuesday next week to replace the outgoing president, Macky Sall.
Preparations are underway for the inauguration of Bassirou Faye as the new president of Senegal. The ceremony is expected to be held before President Macky Sall's tenure ends on April 2nd. Senegal's electoral body on Wednesday declared Bassirou Faye as the winner of the presidential elections with 54% of the votes. His main contender, the ruling party's candidate, Amadou Ba, obtained nearly 36%. Congratulatory messages have begun to pour in from African leaders and the international community for Bassirou Rufai's victory. US President Biden says he looks forward to strengthening bilateral relations with Senegal under Faye's administration. Bassirou Rufai, aged 44 years old, is Africa's youngest elected president. He has pledged to reunite Senegal and also steer the country's affairs with humility and transparency. Top on his agenda is also the fight against corruption and stabilizing the country's economy. Nabil Ahmed Rufai, SABC News, Accra, Ghana.
Botswana Minister for State President Kabo Moraeng has urged all motorists to be vigilant when using roads. This after a horrific bus crash when 45 citizens from Botswana died, the only survivor being an 8-year-old child. The bus was transporting people from Botswana to the St. Agnes Zion Christian Church to the Easter pilgrimage. The bus crashed on the R518 at the Mamutlaka Bridge between Marken and Mokopane in Limpopo on Thursday.
The aftermath of the crash that left 45 people dead, all on board were citizens of Botswana. The government there met the families and representatives of the church to convey the sad news.
Let us wait for the processes to take place in an orderly manner, considering what the country is going through. What is important is for us to stand by the families that have lost their loved ones. Let us give the families space to mourn. This as identification processes begin and as investigations get underway.
The president of Botswana, Mokgweetsi Masisi, has delegated 2 cabinet ministers to give support to the families.
Something that is affecting the Botswana government is the manner in which we drive. We plead with our citizens, just as we are well within the Easter holidays, to exercise vigilance on our roads, as we have already heard of various accidents so far. We should also try to inspect roadworthiness of our vehicles at all times.
We were sent by President Masisi to report to the church, just as we are also working closely with the South African police services, who are working with us to investigate the incident. We are also working closely with the Botswana embassy.
We are still in shock. We have no words. We are trying to wrap our heads around the whole ordeal. The government is doing the utmost best to see our loved ones back in the country so we can give them a befitting send-off.
Meanwhile, the 8-year-old girl who survived is still receiving medical treatment in hospital in Limpopo. Sophie Mukwena, SABC News.
Kimberley's popular annual drag racing event did not disappoint. It attracted about 80 racing drivers from across the country, including locals. Hundreds of people descended on the Old Johannesburg Road to witness the screeching of tires and the burning of fuel and oil.
Burning rubber and fuel. This is what kept the excited audience on their toes when acclaimed South African drag racing drivers of German machines and motorbikes showcased their skills on the road as they tested who is the fastest. The race had the audience's adrenaline pumping.
I'm enjoying it. It's entertaining and it's fun. It's just very hot. But this is my first time and we'll probably come back next year again.
It's my first time here. I'm enjoying it very much. I love the cars, I love the noises, I love the speed, so I'm having a great time.
Each year, this competition brings skilled drivers competing in high-stakes races. The young ones say each year they don't miss the race for anything.
It is my dad with me, my mom, my brothers, and my oldest brother and my friend. I'm enjoying it, but it's a bit loud and the smoke.
Petrol heads were on cloud 9 as the fumes of fuel and burning tires filled the air.
The more people we get from outside, I mean, we've got Bloemfontein representing here, we've got Johannesburg over here, so
the competition is here and the guys are supporting well. So the more support we can have, the more events we can have.
It's something that comes on before me also. The older guys started this event, Easter Drags in Kimberley, and we're just trying to keep the tradition going.
Meanwhile, the drag racing organizers appeal for the private sector and the government to get involved.
We plead out to businesses, we plead out to government. This is a good initiative. This is a good initiative for the community to come and be involved. This is a good initiative for the city of Kimberley. There's all spin-offs from employment to businesses and so forth.
Kanji says they wish to have their own land where they can organize more competitions. Tabiso Khadebe, SABC News, Kimberley.
And that's where we leave it for today. Enjoy your afternoon further. Goodbye.